What's going on?
Peace,
So
peace, peace, bro.
peace, peace, peace. So, I like to let the audience, whoever views this, understand what we're here for. First and foremost, I'm Zay. I don't know if I feel comfortable using my whole government just yet,
Yeah, 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 yeah. You gotta
but
give him a moniker though. You gotta give him so.
yeah. Zay is usually for short. But anyway, so the reason I'm here is this is the pilot episode of it's a working title. I'm going to start with saying things I wish my father taught me. Um, and on a pilot episode, I got the guard in the building
Peace, peace,
virtually.
peace, peace.
You know what I'm saying? And just for the audience, because this is gonna be put up on YouTube with clips here and there, put up on Instagram and other social media platforms. But the whole premise of why we're here. I'm a father. I have three children, and one of my passions, having worked in nonprofit for about 12 years now, education, was always the influence of a father. You know what I mean? And me being a father and just really love the whole journey of fatherhood. I've reflected on the influence of my father or the lack thereof, and the influence of my peers and my friends' fathers, and just in the black community. So the why is, I feel like this can possibly help improve all black families and communities. You know what I'm saying? If we strengthen the family structure, you know what I'm saying? And I think the father has to understand the influence he has. So, I mean, that's off the cuff. So that's the why behind this, you know what I mean? So hopefully we can get these up once a week, maybe more frequently. I don't know if depending on the editing goes, and yeah, I'm just going for it. You know what I mean? I did say this is one of my goals in some of the YouTube. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
put it out on my social media, like anyone wanted to have a conversation about the influence of their father, and I came up with like a list of aspects. And I and the guy hit me, Beth hit me up and said, "Yo, he with it," and
Sean
here
did,
we
Sean
are.
did. Yeah, bro. And like you were saying, it's important, right? And it's a journey I go through as being a new father, right? Being a parent, there's no book and there's no set of rules. You know what I'm saying? But we also, and I feel this personally, we are too into our ego, or sometimes, afraid to ask or even take jewels on parenting, therefore not wanting to be judged. You know what I'm saying? And it
Mm.
sucks that as a culture, we feel like if we ask for parenting, you know what I'm saying, or skills or help on our parenting skills, that's the slack to our parenting skills without the understanding that there's no rules to this shit. Like, you know what I mean?
Right,
My
right.
parents are in their 40s and 50s, and they tell me all the time they still learn. A lot of times they still learn through me, and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? And then now I'm 30, so it's like I still see, or I can reflect in times where my parents was figuring some shit out. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Because I'm feeling those feelings, and I'm going through those shit in real time. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, what you doing, bro, is dope and it's fire. And I wanted to add to your bill because I have an amazing relationship with my dad. So my
Mm-hmm.
perspective isn't that of negative. When
Mm.
I'm around the homies and they talk about they had it rough, it's like, nah, bro. Like I ain't had it rough. Like we had meals and I was well taken care of, right? But you know, and even to go into one of the topics, you said what I wish what greatest thing my dad taught me, right? My
Mm-hmm.
dad taught me respect. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? And when I say the respect, it's like my at an early age, my dad showed me how to treat the janitor like you treat the boss. You feel me? So at an early
Mm.
age, I've seen my dad move and maneuver with great levels of respect and just respect for the universe. You know what I'm saying? Not no just I'm gonna show respect over here because it's where I work at. You know what I'm saying? It's like, nah, bro, carry stuff like that all the time, no matter where we at. You feel me? And nigga, we might be in Virginia somewhere, and a random person might come up to Pops because he showed them respect in a situation where he didn't keep that in mind,
You
and
have to.
he didn't have to, but the
Mm-hmm.
universe is automatically counting those blessings for him. You know what I'm saying? So, I seen that, and it's like he carried that because of my grandfather. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
His relationship with my grandfather was a total different dynamic of me and his. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Which him being the super great dad, you know what I'm saying, and doing
Mm-hmm.
everything my grandfather didn't do, built a sense of enablement for me. Not that it was purposeful. You feel me? Like I don't think he ever thought that was enabling. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
But just him, and I see that in most of the people. I feel like just as black people, especially like y'all generation a little bit, and probably a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit more. It's like parents wasn't really buying them Jordans. So it's like
Yeah,
when y'all got older
yeah.
and got bread, y'all buying all the Jordans for y'all kids. You feel me?
Oh yeah, so let me just bring it back a little bit. Something that you said, and I wanted to make sure the audience was aware of this. Like the whole topic of influence of a father, and again, I said the working title was "Things that which my father taught me." It's not strictly about having conversations with people who fathers weren't involved. We just run the whole gambit, right?
Sure.
I think something can be learned from young fathers, older fathers, grandfathers, stepfathers, or absent fathers. It's you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, I don't really like. I know you got a body, and I grew up with that tradition. Started by a school not far from the Apollo, and I understand that build to destroy, and you're going to develop wisdom one way or another. And I feel like people lost the importance of trying to earn wisdom or learn wisdom, learning from the mistakes of others. That's what makes you wise, right? Learning from your mistake that makes you, what I mean,
Facts.
smart. So again, let me just start from the top with you. All right. So you said you had your father in your life. Like, was your father and your mother together, or were how old were they when they broke up, or what is that nuclear family breakdown for you growing up?
So I had to. I grew up in a perfect Maury situation. You feel me? Like it wasn't no, it wasn't physical chaos. But
Mm-hmm.
my mom and dad was never together. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And like my mom and dad was never together. I kind of found out the situation with my biological father probably came in later years in my life. You know what I'm saying? And I have a great relationship with the person who I thought was my father, which is my namesake, and as
Mm-hmm.
well as his kids, and I consider those to be my siblings. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As well as that brother's always a phone call away. You know what I mean?
Or
But like I say, when I was like 5, 6, my dad became present. You know what I'm saying? But him and my mom dynamic was always that of like a brother and sister, so they was always cool. You know what I mean? But granted, my mom still did the. I want to say like my dad had to go through the systemic like nonsense that plagues you feel me that plagues us when it comes to child bearing. You know what I'm saying?
okay, like what?
Um,
What do you mean?
I mean, like just the whole child support, just the whole, my mom. I grew up in the system. You feel me? So if anybody familiar with the system, once the woman takes financial assistance, that money is then being paid back by the man. You feel
Yeah,
me?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
at an early age, my dad had to go through that. You feel me? And my dad, upon coming in my life, been in my life 1,000%
Mm.
financially, physically, emotionally. You know what I'm saying? Like me and my pops always been A1, but he still had to go through that. Like most of us.
So, do you recall when you were younger? Because a lot of times men get discouraged. A lot of black men get discouraged when they put through the system of child support when they're the mother of their child is on government assistance. Like, do you recall any like your father being frustrated or
I
losing
mean,
patience with the whole system when you were younger?
he ain't know.
Mm,
He ain't know. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of them things where I mean now, that's one of them instances where I feel where how he felt at that time going through that. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? Because he didn't know due to not being educated at the time or just not thinking that it was as serious as it is. You know what I'm saying? To
mm.
now it's like 20 some years later and that's still a problem that's present. You feel me?
He didn't know. Well, he didn't know he was on child support.
I mean, not really, not for a long time because
Okay.
my dad was financially always there. You feel me?
Okay.
And did
Okay.
just how things was, and then when he realized he was on child support, you know what I'm saying? He didn't. I don't think he understood that. I think he had the perspective that as long as I take care of my child financially, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
don't think he understood how much of a business that it was or
Oh
that
yeah.
it is. You know what I'm
how
saying? Like
how slanted it is also like it's you know typically more favorable towards the mother, what I mean, even if the father has been there since day one. But so it's interesting you said your father got involved when he was 6. So from, I mean, that's when you really start to have earliest memories,
yeah, like
right?
five,
So that
six.
makes sense. Okay, because I know, like, I don't know, I feel like my earliest memories that I recall was when I was 4 years old. I don't remember anything prior to that. So you pretty much only know your father. Or
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah. And I don't want to say, and yeah, not to say my earliest memories of pops always been my dad always been in my life to say it like
okay,
that. You know what I'm saying? I framed that in the aspect of like my sister dad lived with us
okay,
and him and my mom had a relationship that my dad and my mom never had.
okay,
You feel me? That's why I say it like that. But yeah,
okay.
not far as I can remember, pops always been there.
Okay, okay. Now you said early on, like one of the things your father taught you was pretty much treat the janitor the same way you treat the president, and that to me is rooted in morals, principles, and in integrity. So, could you speak a little more on that and how your father instilled those things into you? Was it like conversational, or was it through his ways and actions?
My dad ways and actions. You know what
Mm,
I'm saying? Because like we spoke on earlier, our culture and our way of life. You know what I mean? But we practice Islam. You know what I'm saying? I study. I belong to the nation of five percenters, God's nerves,
mm,
as well as my dad, and as well as a lot of the other men in my family. You know what I mean? That's our culture. That's we practice and study. So within that, my dad already always carried himself in a meditative state. My dad
mm.
always came in peace. You know what I mean? So at an
True and
early
living.
age, exactly. You know what I'm saying? So at an early age, every time, and then, like I said, me and my dad always was together. So every time I seen him move, no matter who it was, whether it was a fiend outside of the store or whether it was the dude that owned the store, he
Mm,
still was looking him in his eye, giving him, appropriate, respectful contact. You know what I mean? Like it was never no. My dad never. I never seen him just be rude and disrespectful to anybody. Like he was
mm,
just respectful to the universe. You know what I'm saying? As far as I can remember, and that's just always been his swag. It's always how he carried it. You know what I'm saying? That was something that never was spoken about. I mean,
mm.
as I got older and understood how important that was. But at an early age, I was able to identify how he moved. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is, and that's something that he taught me my whole life, and I carried that with me. You know what I mean? And shit, it's
So,
worked out.
when you young growing up, especially when you got two different households. I mean, so actually, let me just go into that before I go into the next question about how your father uh influenced your morals. But so I imagine you lived in two different households, and how was that? Like, how was the co-parenting aspect of your early years?
It was always interesting because like I said, I had a little sister, so the dynamics in my mom house was different, you know what I'm saying? Because it was more of us, you know what I'm saying? It was more family structure. And my dad, back then was young and I was his only kid. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? So, when I went to Pop's house, I'm going to the homie house,
Or
essentially. And that was the vibe, you know what I mean? We going to chill. And he give me jewels and Pops, he always gave me the jewels, made sure I had everything together. And my dad always supported my sports. So, we always had fun times. But in my mom's house, it was me and my sister. You know what I'm saying? My mom always had a husband, which I grew up with a stepdad as well.
mm,
And so it was a huge family dynamic. You know what
mm,
I'm saying? And it was a little bit more serious because my mom had to focus on raising two kids
mm,
as opposed to Pops. He automatically had his life, personal life together. And
mm,
so me coming over there was just fun. You know what I'm saying?
mm. Okay, so being your father had like the fun environment he created for you at being a young bachelor with a child and established. How was the correction aspect of things? Like when you went against the grain, you know what I'm saying? Like, was that difficult? Was that like difficult for you to receive when your father was correcting you? If you had like a homey type of relationship with your father.
It was the perfect balance. It was even. I feel like, and it's crazy because I never thought about this, but in the hindsight of things, that worked out better because my mom only called my dad when it was serious. Like
Mm.
when Pops pulled out the belt, it was ass whoopings I knew I deserved. You know what I'm saying? So I was more hurt that I disappointed him. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And our relationship was so dope to where as though he didn't have to go full out, ass whooping. Like so a lot of times it was more of the anticipation and just the disappointment that corrected me. So as far as correcting, Pops mastered it. You know what I'm saying? Because it was always, and that's a dynamic I didn't talk about, but it was always respect from me and him. My dad always
Mm.
showed me respect. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Which is a total dynamic in our households because my mom was being a mom, and her methods always meant well, but a lot of times it wasn't well. As opposed to me going to my dad's house, he showed respect. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Even as a little kid, like my dad looked me in my face and showed me respect, explained to me what we were doing. And it wasn't no just shut up, you the kid, sit in the corner. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So, when it came down to chastising me and discipline, he always got it. And a lot of times I never want to disappoint him because that dynamic in our relationship, you know what I mean?
That's interesting because your father, he's from that era where they believed in spare the rod, spoil the child, where they believed in spankings and whoopings. But your father seemed like he was very ahead of his time in the way he like raised you.
Yeah, but that goes into my grandfather was a tyrant, savage.
Ah,
Yeah, my grandfather ain't do nothing but whoop ass. He ain't go to no
mm,
football games. He ain't do nothing but whoop ass and provide food. You know what I'm saying? Like he come from that era. So like I said, my dad did everything opposite of my grandfather,
mm.
which made our relationship so fire.
That's interesting because a lot of times people, they it's one of two ways, right? When you have a particular influence in life, you either mimic that influence or you try to go the opposite direction. You try to do a 180, and your father did a 180. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, did you ever, did you know your grandfather, or was he deceased before you were born? Or
Nah, he just died a couple months ago. He died like May 10th, I think.
okay, now
This year.
how was his influence like on your father and on you? Because like
Um,
him being around pretty much to you like this, he's been around you all your life.
yeah. My grandfather been around. It's a weird dynamic because my grandfather's an old school truck driving mechanic. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Like,
okay.
yeah, he was straight from that era of hard work, no love, tough love.
Mm.
That's it. You know what I'm saying? But he was a man's man. Like he was the epitome of a man's man. You know what I'm saying? My
Mm.
grandfather country as hell, and you feel me? Big country truck driving cat. Like, you know what I'm saying? He was serious. Like he don't you feel me? He don't really smile too much. And it created a dynamic of just not too much love. You feel me? And the way he
Mm,
showed this love was it was confusing, but there no like it was confusing, but he showed love. Like, it was obviously he loved his kids, he loved his family. You know what I mean? He was a provider. So like
mm,
my grandfather was big on just, the fundamental man principles in an old
mm,
school way. Like
mm,
straight providing, that's it. Men supposed to provide and protect. That's it. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? So, he missed out on the other intangibles that come with life. I think my dad did a good job of making that shit
mm.
a factor in our relationship. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, okay. So now, what were some of the difficult aspects of your growth and your maturation into a man with your father? Like, because teenage years, we tend to think we know everything. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? We feeling ourselves. You know what I
yeah,
mean? You always been, you never struggle with the ladies, so you know what I
yeah.
mean. Like it's just certain aspects when you get a lot of attention. I know that that can possibly start make you believe in the height rather than staying true to your principles. So, what were some of the things that made y'all clash, if there were any at all?
um, a lot of and that's what I mean. A lot of our clashes came from things and principles that my dad thought I received, which I really didn't receive because
Mm,
of him taking care of everything. And a lot of things that I was supposed to receive on my own through struggle and just nature. You feel me? Pops being such a good dad replaced that by doing it. You see what I'm saying? When I
mm,
was supposed to, be outside and, learn responsibility and then learn, perseverance. You feel me? My parents replaced that by me being fortunate. I was a fortunate kid. So it's like, and that came with a clash because, he didn't understand why I didn't get it. And I kind of got things later than I should have. You know what I'm saying? Due to that. And which brings me back to my first point because, my grandfather, he was just, on his bullshit. So it was like, Pops always, anytime he could, he wanted to provide. You feel me? When I was 17, 18, when my friends was taking their checks and working and saving them to buy cars, I had a brand new car. I didn't have to, you know what I'm saying? When my friends was saving their money and had to buy sneakers and clothes because their parents like really couldn't afford it, I was fucking my money up and not really worrying about saving because my dad gonna take care of it. So my whole life I had the mindset that my dad got me. You feel me?
yeah,
Like I'm
safety
good.
net. You were
I had
spoiled.
this. I was big spoiled and I had a crazy safety net. So that was the conflict. That was the hard part of growing up. To be honest with you.
Mm, okay, okay. So, what was some of the ways you learned those tough lessons? Like, did your father like pull a safety net from up under you
Oh
eventually,
yeah.
or like what made you like, oh shit, let me learn these hard lessons, or what? How life made you learn that hard lesson?
I mean, shit. Life made me learn them hard lessons, regardless, right? And I say that to say, my dad eventually comes to the point where pops had to pull the safety net, and luckily I was still standing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
And that was the greatest thing my dad ever did for me. Like to be
mm,
honest with you, out of anything, was cutting me off and forcing me to figure it out because due to them great qualities, I was gonna figure it out. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
that's what happened. You know what I'm saying? I figured it out, and then I started to feel the gratification and those perseverances in them small battles that I
Okay.
didn't have to fight early in life. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And yeah, then I had ended up having a kid, and that's something I'm still trying to figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
We gonna get
So,
to that. I'm trying to progress through.
oh,
I'm
okay,
trying.
okay,
So
okay.
I'm progressing through, and I'm almost there. How has you and your father relationship changed now that you as a man, or when did you feel like, yo, I'm really a man? He sees me as a man.
Um, Shit. When honestly, when I just start being more responsible and start handling my responsibilities, and unconsciously, when I changed my perspective on being a man, when I fully
Mm,
accepted being a man myself without nobody having to tell me, without having to do stuff. You know what I'm saying? When I started to, accept, start to understand not only my own cipher, but when I started to understand, where I want my integrity and where I want my values and just character to lie. You know what I'm saying? Outside of my parents, you feel me? Or just just what I wanted for myself. You know what I mean? And to be lesser than the man I was supposed to be, or the man that my dad helped build me up to be. You feel me? When I realized how much that don't sit well with me, you
mm,
know what I mean? That's when I got to the point of, start to be more responsible and just getting on man shit, to be honest
okay.
with you. You know what I'm saying? And I felt as though my dad, and that's another thing, like when I felt the gratification of earning my dad's respect, like
Mm,
that's the only respect that matters to me. You know what I'm saying? So,
mm.
and then even feeling that, like feeling the lack of respect as a man, from somebody I look up to. You feel me?
Right, right.
And
So what is your relationship like now with your father? Like, how, like, do y'all, he still give you that wisdom, or y'all like hang out? Like, how did it evolve now that you both men?
Bro, a lot, like, honestly, I don't even make moves unless I run it past Pops. To
Mm,
be honest with you, like Pops, one of my greatest friends. That's one of my closest people in the world, bro. Like, and I understand how fortunate I am to have Pops. You know what I mean? Pops was my OG first before he was anybody else's. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? So it's like, I truly understand that, and I'm truly appreciative of that. So now our relationship is A1, and then I got a little brother that's just turned 16. So you know
mm.
what I'm saying? So now it's like it's a different dynamic because now it's kids a part of our legacy. You know what I'm saying? And now
Uh,
in our conversation is there, like, me furthering his legacy and how we build on that legacy. You know what I'm saying? It's funny, one of our shows, in-house shows of the family, is Duck Dynasty. I don't know if you ever check that
yeah,
out.
yeah. I never watched it, but I know what you're talking about though.
Fire. The pop started making duck calls, and the son went to college, and now they got $1 billion duck business. You know what I'm saying? And the son run
Mm,
the business, and the father and the uncle sit back, make duck calls if they want to, but they just hunt all day. That's all they do. And the son put the
mm.
work in. You
Now
know
I
what I
like
mean?
that. Like I heard you mention pretty much legacy and how,
Yeah,
like, as they say, an old way of summing it up: young men for counsel. I mean, young men for war, old men for counsel. And your father, you said, is the person you run things by, and you are kind of pouring into your younger brother some of the things your father poured into you.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, it's like, how do I take the information the information he got for us and make it cool, to make it appealing? You feel me? And
Mm,
then now a lot of shit we tag team little bro on. Like, all right, you said that to him. I see how he responds. I'm gonna give it to him this way.
that's
You
dope.
feel me? Or I
That's
come
dope.
back, or you feel me? I never try to break the trust between me and my little brother. But I also want him to be transparent to my dad, so he can get an understanding of how little bro's seeing whatever it is we talking about, or what he going through. You know what I
That's
mean?
dope. That's dope. So you having a child. First of all, how was your father when you were born?
My dad was like 23. No, no, yeah, like 22, 23.
Okay, and how was you when you had your first child?
I was 24.
Okay, so around the same age.
Yeah.
Okay, so now fast forward into you being a father. Like, how did it feel when you first became a father?
Um, it was bittersweet. It was bittersweet. Being a father is joy. Being a parent is joyous. Everything about parenthood is joyous. And outside of, and I use me for example. I know outside of my lack of understanding about the uh overall family dynamic. It's pretty much the lack of understanding about the person I was having a child with, and not
Mm,
not to say understanding them, but just understanding the course of how much the foundation is, like how much the foundation affect your child your child's life and y'all co-parenting going forward. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
And one of the topics was child rearing, and that was my perspective on that. Like,
okay.
you know,
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, let's get into that. Cause you mentioned father. If I'm not mistaken, you said father and parenting. Like that's what you said, right? Like
Yeah,
you said the
yeah.
difference. So what is the two differences to you?
Um, I mean, shit, being a father, honestly, being a father is living there every day, and parenting is the difference of not living there, right? And I
Mm,
feel like we just miseducated overall as a people of the
mm,
difference on that and how important that is. You know what I'm saying? And how much that's not really an option. You feel me? And I feel as though before we make that decision, we don't know how much that's really not an option and how much that should affect the kid, because I feel like we select our partners differently. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
And I just feel like, and one for my dad, I don't think my dad was understood that at the level he understood that now. You feel me? And I feel like them one of them this that's one of them things that our parents are just still educating themselves on, as we all, like not just our
yeah,
parents,
yeah,
like
yeah.
just culturally we educating ourselves on, and things are changing. You feel me? But when I was having a kid, like my dad was giving me jewels, you feel me, and telling me not to do it. But as his perspective as one of them things, he gonna touch the fire and feel how hot it is for himself. And that was one of the things where it's like, nah, bro, I shouldn't even be by the stove right now. You feel me?
Mm,
Because
word,
I
word.
don't really, you know what I'm saying? I ain't really know. As well as, just like I said, misunderstanding of the overall parenting, misunderstanding the emotional aspect of the woman I'm having a child with, and how
Mm,
that was going to affect my life. You feel me?
okay. So how old is your child?
She's 6 now.
6 years old, and what is your relationship like with her mother?
We cool. We cool. Everything is getting good. Everything is getting better than what it once was. You know what I
Okay.
mean? It's definitely no longer hell on earth. You know what I mean? It still has its ups and downs. You know what I mean? The emotional balance and emotional understanding is something I feel as though that have to wean itself out. You know what I
Okay.
mean? But far as the co-parenting thing, we still figuring it out.
That's
You know
good.
what I'm saying? We still figuring it out. We communicating better.
Yeah,
You know,
communication is so important, and and like you said earlier in the episode, it's no book on this shit. You know what I'm saying? And you have to be selfless when it comes to co-parenting also, and it's taking your ego out of it. And these things are easier said than done. But as long as you are self-aware, things will get better. But what is some of the earlier valleys and peaks when you're, because again, it's stages of parenting, right? So it's when the
yeah,
child is an infant, and that stage is to me when they're newborn to when stop when they start eating solid food, then solid
yeah,
food to getting off that diaper, then
yeah.
like school age, just like steps to it. So like the first two stages um from newborn to about out of the diaper, how was that? Like
Um,
were you like with your daughter's mother that whole time, or at what point did y'all like break apart?
Yeah, we probably broke apart. My daughter was like 1,
Okay.
right? But even in that time, my daughter was first born. Like my daughter mom lived with us. My dad let her live with us
Hmm.
for a long time. You know what I'm saying? And then things wasn't working out, and then that's when it got rocky. You know what I'm saying? And then
Yeah, yeah,
that's when the typical it's the typical, the baby mother, baby father drama and
yeah,
shit.
yeah,
You
yeah.
feel me? And
Young.
then,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
you know what I mean. And I take full responsibility for all that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
As well as so it was turmoil at first, like everybody else, like anybody that don't that's not in a relationship with the person that bears their child. You feel me? Um.
Yeah,
So yeah,
so many emotional aspects there, and I want to make sure I let the audience know that we're not here to bash anybody, because
yeah,
things can get misconstrued, and we're just talking about the journey of fatherhood, and the experience of having a father, and just things that you've learned, uh, going through it, things you wish your father would have instilled in you, or things your father instilled in you that you applied. So I want to just add that caveat there because
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
want,
yeah, yeah.
what I'm saying, chicks to go back like
Nah, bro. And then it's as a man, I feel like that's not even manly to just be dragging your BM and all that,
word,
because
word.
that's what I'm about to say. Like at the end of the day, whatever I went through, you feel me? It was my fault. Like you know what I mean?
Take
Everything
responsibility for your what you bring
for
to it.
sure,
Or
for sure. And that's what I mean by misunderstanding of emotional awareness. You feel me? Because if I had the
mm-hmm.
understanding I have now, that wouldn't even be that situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean? I wouldn't have went through none of that. But you
So
know,
early on, little like, how was
yeah.
that? Being that
Uh,
y'all broke up at one years old, how was that?
it was tough. It was tough because outside of battling the emotional misunderstanding, that should just bring a lot of confusion. So there's no peace, and it wasn't peace for a long time. You know what I mean? Until we got rid of the confusion out of our situation, and then now there's no confusion at all. Like everything's peaceful. You know what I mean?
Okay. How active
My
were you? Were you a hands-on dad every aspect, or were you like you shot away from certain stuff?
Nah, I say for like the first year, my daughter didn't live with us. And then after that, it was me being hands on as much as I was allowed to. And then
Mm.
eventually, I put myself on child support.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Due to wanting more custody time and that's why my perspective of the system was like that. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Because although I was the plaintiff, I was still the defendant. You know what I mean?
Ah. Mm.
So going through that and going through court took a lot of time for my kid and it only affected my kid. So, in a way, I wasn't fully, I was there as much as I was allowed to be. You know what I mean? And to
Yeah.
my fault, that's like I said, that's still my fault. So I wasn't there 1,000% like I should have. You know what I mean?
Okay. Okay. So you talked about wanting to build on in enabling or enablement child rearing. What does that mean to you?
Um, I meant to separate the two.
Okay.
But what I mean by enablement is what I talked about earlier. I feel like a lot of parents, especially like our parents, I'm a '90s baby, so I feel like all of my peers and peers are younger. Parents suffer from their parents not being able to provide or do extra things. So I feel like the parents now, or like I said, my parents' generation, they build like a lot of us are spoil you. A lot of my generation is spoil you, and the kids under us are super spoil you.
Oh
And that
yeah.
just strictly become from parents growing up not really having it. A lot of our parents was poor. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah.
now
Mhm.
people got more, they want to provide more, and that
Yep.
shit build, and as we have it, a softer generation. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm.
it's generation softer than us because they don't go outside no more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Entitlement also, it's a sense of entitlement, and it's interesting because one of my favorite phrases, and I want to give a shout out to a little known, a little maybe known but somewhat underrated personality on podcasting named Premium Pete. And he was on the first podcast I've listened to called Combat Jack, rest in peace. He was like a hip hop
word.
attorney that did a podcast, and one of his phrases was presence over presence. And
Hmm.
I just that just stuck with me because I think we tend to not think that being there, doing things, experiences aren't as valuable as the newest sneakers and the new electronics for the kids. And like you said, that kind of lends to the entitlement, right? Like our
Yeah.
kids start to become competitive as far as looks instead of experiences, and that is something that we need. I think we need to go get back to.
No,
You know what
that's
I
a
mean?
fact. That's a fact. I even experienced that, trying to make up for that time. You know what I mean? I've caught myself just every time I link with my daughter, I'm buying her Barbie dolls and we going
Mm-hmm.
shopping to where as though, her time in her head, her time with me is me to just buy a bunch of shit. Every day is
Mm-hmm.
Christmas when I link with Pops.
Word,
You feel
word.
me? So,
So, so how have you been able to regulate that so you don't fall victim to that?
I mean, just having that understanding with her mom, communication with her mom, just communicating that she's mad because she's spoiled, and she's not mad because nothing is wrong. That don't mean
Mm,
not bring her back over here. You know what I'm saying? And just having honestly, bro, consistency, and just being there. You know what I'm saying? And just having that pattern now. Now instead of me
pattern.
pulling up, you know what I mean? Just that pattern. Like, the days we spend, we gonna read. She know Mondays when she come over, we reading and we kicking it. You know what I'm saying? We're not about to go to the mall. You know what I'm saying? That's not a everyday thing now. Now we just chilling. You know what I'm saying? Or,
Hmm.
like I said, we going over studies, or we might just go to the park. But everything is not a monetary buy. You know what I
Love
mean?
that. Love
And
that.
it, and it's hard. It's definitely hard now. She's spoiled.
Yeah, it's really hard, right? Because we tend to give in to the emotional outbursts, right? And we live in this era where by default, we don't mean to be influenced by our peers on social media and with the culture at large says and does, but we feel like we want to provide what others are providing. So it's sometimes it's difficult for us to sit still, like to just have a chill, like day in the crib. What I love also what you said about patterns, right? Is to me pattern is also meaning trust in the process, right?
Yeah.
Parenting is not for instant gratification. Like we know our deficiencies as adults, right? I knew that my parents didn't look under my bed, so I used to just put mad of my shit under the bed, right? And to me being lazy, cutting those corners made me kind of lazy in aspects of myself as an adult. So it's
Mm,
like, yo, I can't sleep on those little small details because I know, like, if unchecked, they can develop into bad habits as adults. And
mm,
I think, and I think that goes back to patterns that you mentioned, right? You just got to keep the consistent pattern, trust that process, and know that seed will bear fruit one day. And that's the hard part in this, this era where we
yeah.
have a short attention span. You know what I mean? But that's dope that you are have building that structure for her right now. But
That's
what's
a
the
that's a question. That's a question for you too, because you seem to have that pretty well mastered. Like, how were you able to program your kid to one have an unmaterialistic mindset, or just to just be cool and not want a lot. You know what I mean?
well, I kind of like, I think I mixed in some of what your pops did with you, right? Like me and my daughter, we have long conversations in the whip. Like I'll be
Mm,
like, yo, I get you cool shit. 'Cause I like cool shit, but that don't make you better than nobody, right?
mm,
I said, yo, you don't treat the kid who got bad hygiene a certain way, or the kid that got certain sneakers a certain way because you got this. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
Because at the end of the day, nobody in that school can buy that for themselves.
mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So they can't help that. They pretty much inherit their situations, and it's not their choice. So I kind of give her a deep understanding about character, and I tell her character matters. Manners can take you places money can't. And also
Right.
I credit that to her mother. And again, it's always a work in progress. You know what I'm saying? My daughter's still trying to figure stuff out, and we just have real in-depth conversations. I try to give her the why behind things, and like you said, trying to establish patterns, and that's very difficult, right? I'm a very impulsive and spontaneous person, but you know, just trying to stay rooted in the plan, and just making sure you emphasize what matters the most. You know what I'm saying? So I think
Yeah.
that's
True.
what helps. You know what I'm saying? My daughter understanding, like, yo, we character over here. Like, we go in at a family function. You say hello. Don't wait for no adult to speak to you. You speak to the adults. You go in
Yeah.
there and say hello. You say how you doing back, and the humility. I think that's keep her rooted in that. That's why she is not too caught up on the materialism right now. And I think when she and then also when she mentions it, I try to nip it in the bud. Like, yeah, that don't mean shit. Like, I love
Word.
polo, I
Word.
love it, but that
Word.
don't make that, like, see, the love I get from people, that's because of the way I treat them. It's not because of the way I look.
Word.
So I think when that's what's important. You know what I'm saying? And again, it's a work in progress. But I think the kids value what we value. So that's another thing too. My daughter loves history because I teach history and I listen to podcasts. And
Mm,
sometimes we forget the power and influence we have over our kids just are based off our existence.
mm.
Like, yo, she tend, like, I'm looking like, yo, she be in the whip list on her iPad, and I have a whole podcast on about the Cold War, and she'll just like, what that mean? And I'll be
Word.
like, I'll be tripping out, and I
Word.
love it. And it also makes me reflect on, like, yo, and this is not anything that we don't know, but I think we sometimes don't remember the power we have. It's based off our
Right.
our our, our the way we move. Like your father, you said your father did through example. So a lot of those things, man. But it's a work in progress, man. Because I think now more than ever we need to be really on top of controlling the narrative of our kids, man. Because if we don't, the internet will.
Man, listen, and I'm tired of seeing a demasculated generation and
Mm,
an unfeminine generation
mm,
also. Like, it's crazy, bro. It's crazy. And then, like you say, man, you know, uh, battling an uphill battle with just having a tablet watch your kid. You feel me? That's a hard thing, and and it's easier to do. But it's even harder to, like you say, stay down on them principles and stuff that we know. You know what I'm
mm-hmm.
saying? The basics that we know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. But it's really a true blessing, man. So what is like what's some of the things that you applying to your parenting style that you got from your father?
Um, just like you said, lead by example, lead with action. You know what I mean? Everything is understanding that everything I want her to do, I must show her and do within myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, the era of do as I say, not what I do is dead. And when I don't practice
Mm,
that, you feel me? It's everything is do what I do. You feel me? And it's a
I
constant
like
to
that.
make sure. You feel me? Like what I'm doing is something I want my kid to do. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah. That's ill. That's ill, man. So again, we getting close to the hour, and I don't want to hold you too long, but I want to definitely because the two things that I put in here, and I didn't give you context to it. I wanted to end off with what's the best thing you learned from your dad, and what is something you wish your father was able to teach you. So let's start with the what was the best thing you learned from your father, or the biggest life lesson you got from your father.
Um, biggest life lesson I got from my pops was you can't spell time without me. You feel me? And that was dope because you know, pretty much what it said. Like everything revolves on your time. You know what I'm saying? Not on everybody else's time. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And whether I don't know if my dad understand the influence of social media or the pull that social media got on the generation, but it's like that's important. You feel me? That was a great jewel that I obtained from him just to you know keep peace in my own life in my own cipher. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, I like that. I never heard that one before. That's dope. And lastly, what is something you wish your father was able to teach you, or like what's something that you feel like you kind of weaker on as an adult that you like? Yo, I wish we would have spent more time on that.
Um, as I talked about earlier, just the same thing. Like I feel like not responsibilities, but just small nuances of like just time management stuff like that. There's little subtle skills. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing too crazy. I spent a lot of time with my dad, so like I said, I'm fortunate. Like I got too many jewels from pops. So ain't nothing. I honestly, bro, ain't nothing I can say that I wish my dad haven't taught me. Cause ain't nothing I can think about that my dad didn't teach me. To be honest with
Mm,
you, you know what I'm
that's dope.
saying. So I really
That's
can't
dope.
answer that question.
That's dope, man. Well, I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing all these things with me and trusting me and my vision to put something together like this, and you the first one, man. So let's see if we can build from this and come up with a format. And I'm gonna definitely get this out there, and I hope we come up with a solid title. And if you got any suggestions on the title, man, I always trust your input, man. Like we don't talk all the time, but I always come back to you one time or another.
Nah, this shit fire, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? I definitely enjoyed this and I definitely hope you continue the conversation. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And definitely, like I said, I want you to continue the conversation, bro, because it's steady learning. I learned so much father skills from you. You feel
Yeah,
me?
yeah, I
That
appreciate
whether
that.
you know it or not, you know what I'm saying? That I learned a lot of jewels from you, bro, especially on parenting. You know what I mean? So it's like I definitely need you to continue these so I could tap in
Appreciate
and
that.
get some
Word,
more jewels. You know what I'm saying?
word. I appreciate that, man. Well, thank y'all for tuning in, and stay tuned. More to come, and the IG. You want to tell people to find you on social
Oh
media?
yeah, for sure, for sure. Oh yeah, check me out. Is Beth God BEF.GOD. Check out my food page, Late Night Eat 732. That's again Late Night Eat 732. Check out my dog page, Lady of Loyalty Kennels. And we'll be having puppies for sale. For sure,
Dope.
for sure. Pretty
Bro, what's the
soon.
breed? What's the breed?
So we doing micro bullies.
Mm, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
like small house pocket bullies.
That's
Her
dope.
name
That's
I got
dope.
one so far named Lady, and I tapped in with a Loyalty Kennels. So
That's dope. That's dope. I love, man. You're always on your grind, man. Well, continue much success and parenting and manhood. So
for
yeah,
sure, bro.
let
Peace,
me
bro.
peace. All right, so I stopped the record. Wait, stop recording. Stop recording.